You've been listening to the oral arguments in Trump v. Barbara. Now, the oral arguments you are hearing are concerning Executive Order 14160. That is President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order, which undoes the notion that anyone around the world, this was said in this case, all 8 billion people around the world could have a child in the United States of America. And those individuals under an 1868 constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, would become U.S. citizens. John Sauer posing and positing that possibility before the Supreme Court in a contentious but civil back and forth. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Kennedy, host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kaylee McGee-White, Fox News contributor, and Lawrence Jones, co-host of Fox and Friends and the host of Revival with Lawrence Jones, which debuts tomorrow on Fox Nation. More on that later. But first, let's bring in Kerri Urbahn, Fox News legal editor. Kerri, these arguments were fascinating. John Sauer saying domicile. Domicile means what you consider to be your permanent residence was intended when this was made a constitutional amendment in 1868 and the subsequent precedents that were referenced, like Kim Ark, which was continually referenced. I want to bring up birth tourism, though. This was fascinating. We know that anywhere between 1 million, 1.5 million, perhaps Chinese nationals have come to this country, given birth. Their children are now U.S. citizens. That was a stat mentioned in the argument. But one of the justices said, that's irrelevant here. That's policy. That's not law. But we heard pushback from John Sauer saying this was not what was intended in 1868, Kerri.
Right, nor was it intended, I think, by the 1898 Supreme Court, who created birthright citizenship as we know it today. John Sauer made the point that I think there are over 500 birth tourism companies in China that come over here. You know, and Justice Alito raised the context of the 1898 Supreme Court case, Juan Kim Ark, that created birthright citizenship as we know it today. And that was the people, the parents of the person who was fighting for a citizenship had been domiciled here for quite some time. They were Chinese nationals, and they had been trying to become citizens. But at the time, there was strong anti-Chinese sentiment, a lot of racism. So it was basically impossible for Chinese nationals to become permanent citizens. So the Chinese parents go back to China. They bring their kid with him. So he returns to the U.S. as an adult, tries to get into the ports. They say you can't come in. He goes to the Supreme Court. He wins. So different context, and certainly not the exploitation of our citizenship clause that we're seeing today, with people just crossing the border in order to have babies, or, you know, entire companies being devoted to bringing people over, pregnant women, holding them up in houses in Beverly Hills to have a baby just to fly back to their country. Now, Kayleigh, I would say this. I thought there was a lot of interesting discussion around the 1866 Civil Rights Act, and that was because the language in that says specifically that if you're born in the U.S. and not subject to any foreign powers, you are a citizen. And then 2 years later, we have the 14th Amendment, the Citizenship Clause, and they put in that wonky phrase, if you're born in the U.S. and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, you're a citizen. So the question that was posed to the advocates was, well, it's the same Congress. It's 2 years apart. Does that mean the same thing? Because that makes things a lot more clear, especially when we're talking about people who are here from other countries who are having kids. Now, the ACLU attorney did concede that it meant the same thing. But look, at the end of the day, I think this one is a closer call than all of the people who were decrying this as crazy would like to, that it's a much closer call than they realized it would be. I'm not sure where the Supreme Court justices will land. It feels like they're leaning against the administration. But I will say this. They were taking the arguments very seriously and asking tough questions to both sides.
They were. And to me, I go back to that hypothetical that was posed. 8 billion people in the world. So if they came here, had a child, then you were saying that all of those people can become citizens. It seems preposterous and certainly not something that was envisioned by the framers. But I'm curious, you mentioned we did hear skepticism from the justices, but you noted it was a little bit of a closer call. Is that what you discerned from their questions, which I know is always a fool's errand when trying to read the tea leaves of the court?
Yeah, you know, because, Kayleigh, for so long, and you know this, you and I both served in the first Trump administration, if someone even mentioned ending birthright citizenship, they were written off as crazy. That's right-wing fringe stuff. This is nuts. The Supreme Court would never take this seriously. And then two things happened. One, the Supreme Court decided to take it up, which means that they think it's worth taking up. And two, we heard oral arguments today where they were considering the arguments very carefully. Now, I will say this. There was, and I'm not surprised, though a little disappointed, there was not much of a discussion of the real-world implications of what birthright citizenship result in, right? There wasn't any conversation about, well, is it fair for someone to just pop over here, have a kid, and now that child retains all of the benefits of the United States versus someone, say, who was born in another country, moved here when they were 3 years old, and then, say, can't run for president someday, despite the fact they've been here their whole lives. None of that was dismissed more as policy concerns. But, you know, we live in a real world, and these are the real world implications. And I think people are listening and watching this and thinking, well, is this fair? But again, we'll see what the Supreme Court does. There was a lot of conversation about what domicile means, and so we'll see.
Well, John Sower pushing back hard that those real-world implications matter. I agree with him. Kerri Urbahn, thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.